Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, and today I'm going to be doing the final what I've watched episode for my channel. Because if you didn't know, I'm a huge lover of movies and TV shows almost as much as I'm a lover of books. And so in the year of like 2018, I started making these videos called What I've Watched, and I only make them like a few times a year just to kind of update you on all the recent TV shows and movies that I've been watching. But I think this is going to be our final episode on this channel, which is kind of, you know, it's exciting, but it's also kind of sad. But the reason why this is going to be the last episode is because I am starting a film and movies podcast with my sister called Film Queens. If you haven't heard, we are officially on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google, like all of the main things. We are on those platforms now. I will have the links down below, and our official launch date is March 15th. Very exciting stuff. I'm really excited to be starting a movie and TV show kind of podcast with my sister. So if you're wondering where these videos are on my channel or why I've stopped doing them, it's because I'm taking all of my movie and TV show content and moving it over to the podcast. You know, we're going to be talking about stuff that we've been recently watching, and it just feels kind of redundant to have these videos on my channel and the podcast. So I'm so excited to let you know about all of the TV shows and movies that I've been watching over the last couple of months. I think the last time that I made one of these was in early December. So like, you know, it's been a couple months worth of some stuff. And also, you know, since I've been doing YouTube full time since December, I've been having even more free time to watch a lot of stuff. So like this list is crazy long. So I want to try to keep this as brief as I can. I'm not going to go into too many thoughts on all of my opinions on these. I mean, some of them, like, I won't be able to help myself. But for the most part, I just kind of want to give you a brief, like, what I kind of thought of it. So I figured we should start with some TV shows, because I have quite the list of TV shows that I've watched over these last couple of months, and oh my god, I've been watching such good TV lately. So the first show that I wanted to talk about that I watched in December was Hawkeye. This was like the Marvel, you know, it's in the Marvel universe. Hawkeye, I'll be honest, he's never been one of my favorite Marvel characters, so I had pretty low expectations going into this show, but I watched this show because of my freaking queen, Hailee Steinfeld. I freaking love her so much, but I ended up having so much fun with it. I loved the chemistry between Hailee Steinfeld and you know, Hawkeye. I thought their chemistry in the show was so freaking good. It was just like a cute, heartwarming show, and the whole show kind of takes place around Christmas time, so I thought that that was so cute to be able to get this like Marvel kind of cozy Christmas kind of show. I highly recommend watching it around Christmas time. We actually finished it right before Christmas, and it could have not been more perfect. We also watched the show The Sex Lives of College Girls. This one's on HBO, and this one was such a lovely surprise, you know, and it's actually produced, I think it's produced and created by Mindy Kaling, so I shouldn't have been that surprised that it was this good, because I love Mindy Kaling. Like, her comedy is just so good. Really translated well into this show. Like, this show is just about, you know, these 4 college girls, and it's kind of, you know, it's about their sex lives, I guess, and it's just about their kind of like day-to-day, you know, it's just like a fun kind of romantic comedy drama kind of show, and I was just super impressed. I thought it was really cute. Like, some parts were a little cheesy for sure, and some characters were like a little cringy, but for the most part, I really liked this show. I had a really fun time with it. Me and my mom, we ended up watching Finding Magic Mike, which is on HBO, and oh my goodness. Okay, so this is like a reality show, and it's like a dance competition show. It's not exactly what you think it is though, because you would think it's like all these like really hot, you know, attractive guys, right? Like competing to be the next Magic Mike, but it's actually not really like that. It's about these guys who feel like they've lost their magic, and they're going to try to feel more confident in themselves and to try to become the next Magic Mike, but for reasons that like you might not think. It is like genuinely such a cool show. Like, I personally love dance competition shows. Like, they're one of my favorite kind of reality kind of shows to watch, just because I love watching dance. I think it's like one of the most fascinating things that you can watch. And I also love Magic Mike. Like, I genuinely do love Magic Mike and like the idea of like these male dancers. I just find it all to be very interesting. And so this show was just so cute. Like, I highly recommend checking it out if you're ever just like, you know, kind of bored and just want to put something on and just watch something for fun, for entertainment. I would highly recommend just putting this one on, because it'll make you smile, and you'll probably be like really impressed by some of their dancing. Like, it's genuinely such a fun show. I also started watching watching Arrested Development because of my mom. Like, my mom has recently really gotten into the show, and I've been hearing about this show so much throughout the years, and I've always been a huge fan of Jason Bateman. Realistically, I don't know why I didn't check this one out sooner, but I did complete the full first season, and I'm currently still on the second season. But the show is just so fun, and like, it's just so hilarious. It definitely gives me the vibes of like The Office meets Schitt's Creek, which is just crazy because I know that this show actually came out before either of those two shows, because this first season I think was in like 2003. But oh my god, this show is just so funny. Like, the cast is so good. Like, Jason Bateman is just so good in this role, and I can definitely see the hype with Arrested Development. I know some of their later seasons are like, they came out years and years later. Like, I think their most recent season came out in like 2018, and they took like a lot of gaps in between the seasons, so I'm kind of curious to see how the later seasons will feel for me, if they feel the same. Then me and my sister also watched Dexter New Blood. Oh my god, we binged this shit within a few nights. Oh my god, it was so good. If you didn't know, I'm a huge fan of Dexter. I mean, I think we can all agree that the last season of Dexter was absolute dog shit. The very last finale episode of Dexter was a piece of shit. I think we can all agree with that as Dexter fans. But this new season, oh my gosh, it was just like so exciting. This season of Dexter, that was like this new season, felt so much like one of the best seasons of Dexter. Like, it felt like the old school Dexter where he's like kind of, you know, like there's the police are kind of like on his trail, but they're trying to figure out what's going on, and there's also the inclusion of some characters from the past in this, and oh my god, it's just so good. Like, I will warn you that I do think the finale of Dexter New Blood, you know, it's not my favorite thing, and I can see why some people are pissed off about the finale once again. Like, the creators definitely don't really understand Dexter's character, I think, as well as the fans do. But with that being said, I mean, the rest of the season was an absolute 10 out of 10 for me. Like, I had so much fun watching Dexter. Like, my heart was like racing. It was like everything that I missed about the original Dexter series. Like, oh my god, it was just such a good time. And then the next show that I watched was All of Us Are Dead on Netflix, which, if you didn't know, if you haven't heard me talk about this show enough, it's this Korean teen zombie show that is just like my favorite thing ever. I actually ended up watching this show twice, like back to back. I watched it with Rachel and Obed the first time, and then I went to stay at my parents' house and watched the entire series again with my parents. And there's only one season, so I don't know why I say the entire series, but like there's 12 episodes I think, and they're all like over an hour long each, so it is quite like a hefty amount of show to watch. But like, oh my god, I love this show so fucking much. Like, I just love it with my whole heart. Like, I don't even know how to explain how much I love this show. I'm like a huge fan of like the zombie, you know, genre. I love, like, it's such a guilty pleasure of mine for zombie things, and I think this is my favorite like zombie show that I've ever seen, and that's coming from someone who used to be a huge fan of The Walking Dead. Like, The Walking Dead used to be my shit until it just got really boring, you know? But like, oh my god, this show is just everything. I love the characters so much. Like, Chong-sun, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I always feel like I mispronounce it, but Chong-sun is my favorite character. He's the one that his mom owns the chicken restaurant. I just like, I adore him so much. And like the romances that go on in this show, like, literally made my heart grow 10 sizes. Like, how fucking soft. These characters are just so cute. Like, the show is everything, and if this show does not get approved for a second season, I will actually be pissed off. Like, I will be so mad, because like, I'm so hooked, I'm so invested, and they can do so much with the second season. Like, I have so many ideas. I can't wait to see where it goes. And then after watching that, we ended up watching Alice in Borderland, which we've been recommended this show so much because we're all such big fans of Squid Game, like me and my sister and her boyfriend. And so we finally decided to watch Alice in Borderland, and if you didn't know, this is a Japanese show, and it's on Netflix, and it's kind of similar to Squid Game in the fact that we're following these people who, you know, get thrown into these deadly games, and it becomes about survival, and you have to like win these games to survive. It's very much Squid Game's vibes, like almost to the point where it's like, whoa, what the fuck? But Alice in Borderland actually came out before Squid Game. Like, whoa, mind-blowing. This show, oh my god, I have such mixed feelings about this show. Like, I could talk about this for literally hours, because I think the first 3 episodes are so fucking good. Like, Alice in Borderland, holy shit, the first 3 episodes, mind-blowing, god tier, some of the best TV I've ever seen in my life. Like, I was freaking shook. I was crying after the 3rd episode. Like, I couldn't believe what my eyeballs just witnessed. But then shortly after that, I feel like this season starts to lose itself after a certain thing gets introduced in the plot. Like, I could not care less about something that happens in the plot about halfway through the season, and then from that point on, I felt like it got so fucking cheesy and so like ridiculous kind of, and like over the top, and it just lost the magic that was like those first 3 episodes, but I do think the finale of season 1 was actually still pretty good, and I do think I still want to watch the second season just because the idea of these games, it's like fucking mind-blowing, so cool. But like, oh my god, I can't get over this show's potential because like the first 3 episodes were so good. Like this show had me wrapped around its fucking, oh my god. Then, you know, it just ended up being kind of disappointing by the end of it, so like, ooh. The next show we started watching is From. And this show, it's currently airing right now. It only has a few episodes up, but we've only seen the first 3 at this moment in time that I'm filming this. And this show is so fascinating, okay? It's very like, it kind of reminds me of like The Walking Dead for some reason, but it has like those vibes. But it's about this show where this town, it doesn't exist somehow. It's like, it's so confusing. But there's this town where like when the people drive through this town, they can't leave the town. And it's weird because I thought it was going to be a situation where it's like under the dome or something like Stephen King, where there's some kind of like force field or bubble that's like keeping them all there, like, you know, something like that. But no, it's like they just drive in a loop and they can't get out of this town, and there's no way to escape this town, and they're all just here now and stuck. At nighttime, in this town, there are these like monster creatures that come out, and so in this town, after dark, you like have to lock up and stay inside, and you can't look out your windows because these monsters are like out there. And oh my god, it's like the creepiest fucking shit. Like these monsters are genuinely so scary, and that's the main reason why I keep tuning in for every episode, because I'm so intrigued, and it's so fascinating, and it's like really good. I mean, I will say some of the acting in this show isn't great, you know, like it's not my favorite. Like there are some characters like I genuinely can't stand how bad they are at acting. Like it's just very glaringly bad sometimes, but the concept of this show is really cool, and I feel like I'm returning for each episode because of the vibes. We also did start watching the show Severance. This one's on Apple TV, and it's directed by Ben Stiller, which is why I was really interested in checking this one out. And this show is so strange. Like I feel like I don't fully understand, or like it's revealing things to you very slowly. It feels very Black Mirror vibes to me, because we're following this main guy. It's played by Adam Scott, by the way, and it's like about how this company, you know, they do this surgery in your brain where they separate your work life from your home life, and so you're basically like 2 different people. When you go into work, you completely forget who you are outside of work, and it like shuts off that half of your brain, and then you only know who you are at work. And it's supposed to be so that they can like help you balance your like, you know, your work to life balance. Like you can enjoy your outside life more, but you don't know what you do at work. It sounds like so mysterious and so weird, and the first 2 episodes have just been so strange so far, but I'm definitely curious to see where this show goes, because like what a concept. It's like such a cool concept. I also wanted to mention that I have started watching Our Beloved Summer on Netflix and Flower of Evil on Hulu. I mentioned both of these in the video that I did of like reading Korean thriller and horror books. I started watching both of these shows because they're both like Korean shows, and I'm only like 3 episodes into Our Beloved Summer still. This show is so freaking cute. It's like a romantic comedy, and no, I didn't realize that the main actor in this show is the same actor who plays the son in Parasite. Like freaking mind-blowing. I don't know why I didn't realize that. Flower of Evil is this like, you know, thriller kind of mystery show where the wife plays a detective, and she's kind of like, she doesn't know, or she's like starting to catch on to the fact that her husband might be up to doing some things. I think he's like a killer or something, I don't know. But both of them have been so good so far. I've only seen 1 episode of Flower of Evil, and then I've watched 3 of Our Beloved Summer, but they're both shows that I'm planning on continuing, and I'm really enjoying both of them, so that's exciting. And then the last TV show that I wanted to mention before we jump into movies is Love is Blind Japan. The show is just so cute, and if you're wondering, like, no, I wasn't really interested in watching the regular Love is Blind just because I've seen bits and pieces. My sister watches it, and I've just seen the drama. For some reason, the people on like the regular Love is Blind, they just don't seem very like sincere or like genuine, and so it just kind of like drives me nuts. But this Love is Blind Japan, oh my god, it is just so cute. Like it just genuinely warms my heart and made my heart grow 10 sizes, and I was just like watching an episode before bed every night, and it was just the softest shit ever. I definitely had like my favorites throughout the season, and it was just so like, oh, it was just so cute. I loved it so much. Like it just made my heart so happy. All right, and now we are moving on to all the films that I have watched It's a lot. It's a lot. I'll just let you know. It's a lot. The first one is going to be ShangChi. I hope I'm saying this correctly. I've looked up so many different videos and I feel like in every video they pronounce it differently, but I think it's ShangChi. And this movie was so good. Like, it was such a great Marvel movie. This is like an origin story for this character. I loved getting the background on his family, and this actor, like, oh my god, he's so adorable. Like, I can't wait to see him more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I also absolutely loved seeing Awkwafina in this movie. I feel like every time I see Awkwafina in a movie, she just like elevates the movie and makes it so much better because her comedy is just always on point. Like, she just brings me so much joy. So I freaking loved this movie. Like, I thought it was a really great Marvel movie. And then we watched Barb and Star on Hulu, and this movie was so unexpected. Like, I still don't really know how I feel about this movie because yes, this movie was original, it was unique, it was different, you know, I appreciate it. But also, like, I feel like I don't really understand this movie. Like, some of it was so bizarre that I was like, okay, that's really a stretch. And I also feel like this movie would have been better without the villain character. Like, I feel like the villain character just really ruined it for me because it was so much fun even without that. You know, I loved the relationship that these two friends were having, and then they had this relationship with Jamie Dornan, who was just so good in this movie. And I don't know, I just have such mixed feelings about it overall because I feel like without the villain it would have been a lot better. Like, the villain just made it so cheesy. I also watched the Hating Game movie finally. Oh my god, I can't believe The Hating Game is like one of my favorite romance books of all time, and so to see this movie like on screen was just so unreal. And I will say the movie, like, it was good. Okay, it was good. It just wasn't my favorite. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I will say that I think Lucy Hale is the perfect Lucy. Yes, it's Lucy playing Lucy. I think she did absolutely great. Like, perfection, 100% what I imagined Lucy. Like, I just loved her. Like, she was so good. But then the guy that played Josh, like, I don't know about him. I just wasn't a huge fan of this actor playing Josh. He just wasn't very intimidating in the way that I imagined Josh to be in my head. And I feel like the character of Joshua Templeton, he just needs to be more intimidating. Like, I did not get those vibes at all from this guy. Like, this guy was way too nice, way too sweet, and his voice was like very Mickey Mouse, you know, like he was just very polite. I need some more intimidating vibes from this guy, so he just didn't really do it for me. But like, overall, I think, not even comparing it to the book, I do think it's a cute movie, you know, like, it's a good time. I think you could put this on and enjoy it and have fun watching it. The next movie I watched was The Unforgivable, which this is the one on Netflix with Sandra Bullock, and this movie was like so fucking intense. Like, this one's kind of like a thriller, and I feel like for a lot of this movie you don't really know what's going on. I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people I see give this movie pretty low reviews, and to be honest, I don't fully understand why. Like, I really enjoyed myself during this movie. I had a great time watching this. I love this cast. Oh my gosh, we have Sandra Bullock, we have Viola Davis, and we have John Bernthal. John Bernthal is like one of my faves, and so seeing him in this movie like brought me so much joy. I just absolutely love him, and he was so cute in this movie too. Like, oh my god, like, there was a fucking plot twist at the end of this movie that actually blew my goddamn mind. Like, I know everybody on the line, they were like, it's so obvious, or they're like, I saw it coming, and I'm like, oh, I didn't. So I just had a great time. I was shook. I was completely shocked, like floored by what happened at the end of this movie. I loved it. I thought it was so fucking good. Like, I genuinely don't understand the negative reviews for this one. And then the next movie we saw was SpiderMan No Way Home. Do I even need to explain to you how much I loved this movie? Like, this was probably my favorite theater experience that I had in the whole year of 2021. I mean, I didn't have many theater experiences, to be fair, but still, oh my god, like, one of my favorite movie theater experiences that I've ever had. Like, holy shit, I was screaming. Like, our whole theater, we went and saw it on opening night, okay? Our whole theater was like screaming when certain things were happening on screen. Like, I won't spoil anything for you, okay? Nothing is gonna be spoiled here, but oh my god, this movie was just so fun. It was so good. And to be honest, like, I've never really liked Tom Holland's Spider-Man very much. Like, he's just never really felt like Spider-Man to me. But I will admit that this was the first movie that I watched Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I actually felt like this kid is Spider-Man. Like, he is Peter Parker now. I don't know what it was about this movie, but there was just like this growth within his character in this movie, and it just really made me appreciate him more as Spider-Man. And oh my god, I just can't, like, this movie was just so epic. It was so fucking cool. Like, I just loved it so much. It made my nostalgic, like, Spider-Man fangirl heart just like absolutely melt. And then we ended up watching Don't Look Up on Christmas, because this one went on Netflix on Christmas, and this one is a movie that I also have mixed feelings about, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I'm not, but I'm also kind of surprised by the praise that this movie is getting at the Oscars. It got so many Oscar nominations, and to be, you know, quite honest, I don't fully understand why. I mean, I know it's because of the cast, right, and the director. You know, we've got Leonardo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep, you know, we've got Jonah Hill, we've got all the, like, Oscar, you know, top tier actors here. And then also this is the same director as, you know, The Big Short. You know, we're talking Adam McKay. So like, of course the Oscars are just gonna fucking love this shit, right? But as a movie, like, I just don't know how I feel about this one, because while I do appreciate the message and like the commentary in this movie, like I really do, like I appreciate everything this movie stands for and what they're trying to say, but I also feel like it was a little too like in your face about it. I kind of like, you know, when social commentary is a little more subtle. I feel like this was just so like extra and like in your face about it, which like maybe we need that, you know, maybe we do, I don't know. But this movie, it was just so strange. Like I found it hard to like find the tone of this movie. I felt like it was very all over the place, and like maybe that was also the point. But then like by the end of this movie, I did get like emotionally attached, and I felt like I was gonna cry at the end of this film. Like I thought it was really kind of beautiful towards the end. Like I don't know, it was a lot of emotions, and I don't really know how I feel about it. Like this is kind of like a mid, like I gave it like a 3 out of 5, I think. Like it's just such a strange film. Oh my gosh. And then the next movie we watched was Come On, Come On with Joaquin Phoenix, and I am mad, I am angry that this didn't get Oscar nominations. Like what the fuck? This movie was incredible. It was beautiful. It's a movie that's like all in black and white, and we just follow Joaquin Phoenix as he's, you know, he has this little like radio or like podcast show, and then he goes around and he like kind of interviews the youth in America and kind of talks to them about like, what do you think about this in America? And it's just so fucking inspiring. And it's kind of about how he starts to form this relationship with his nephew when they go on this like road trip together, and that's kind of like mainly what the story's about, is his, you know, relationship with his nephew and kind of how he's starting to become a bigger part of his life. And it's just the most wholesome, soft shit. It was so fucking cute. I just loved it so much. It was one of my favorite movies that I saw in 2021, and I don't know why the Oscars just like skipped out on this movie. Like I genuinely don't get it. And then the next film that we watched was Last Night in Soho. This one stars Anya Taylor-Joy. It's directed by Edgar Wright, who is the director of Baby Driver. Oh my god, I just blanked so hard. Baby Driver. And this movie, it's kind of like a drama, like horror mystery kind of movie that was very interesting. And this movie was very unique, you know, because we're following our main protagonist is this like fashion designer, and when she goes to bed at night, she has these dreams about this woman who lived in the 1960s. And it's kind of confusing, you know, because when this girl like goes to sleep, she wakes up in her dream and she like is the girl from the 1960s. So it was kind of strange. Like I will say, like I enjoyed this film, but there were definitely some issues that I had with it. Like the pacing, some of it felt really slow, especially towards the beginning. I was just like waiting for things to pick up. But I will say at the end of this movie, I was pretty surprised by where it ended up going. Like there was like a twist towards the end that I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like there was one thing that I thought was kind of predictable that I did see coming, but then there were other like little things that I did not see coming. So I thought that that was pretty cool. And then we watched Free Guy, which this is the movie with Ryan Reynolds. I literally went into this movie kind of expecting not to like it, just because, you know, you never know with Ryan Reynolds. You know, sometimes his movies can be so hit or miss, and I don't usually like love films that are about like video game worlds, I guess. Like, I don't know. This one was just so cool. It was so unique, and I just loved it so much. And we're basically just following, you know, Ryan Reynolds is this character in a video game world, but he like doesn't know that he's a character in a video game world. It's very kind of hard to explain, but he starts to go against his own coding in the video game, and it's just like, oh my god, this movie's like the cutest shit ever. Like I genuinely want to rewatch it. I thought it was so funny. Like Ryan Reynolds was perfectly cast in this. He's just so fucking good in this role. And then the next movie I saw was The Mitchells vs. the Machines. This one is an animated movie that's on Netflix, and this one was another one that was such a surprise. It was so freaking cute. I mean, the thing about this movie is that it is a little tropey, okay, you know, because we do have, you know, the teenage daughter that wants to go away to college, and like her dad doesn't understand her dreams. Like she wants to create videos and have like more of a creative job, and then her dad's like, no, you need to have a real job, because he's worried about her. And so it is very, you know, a little tropey in that sense, but it's so fun because this family, like the style of the animation is really cool in this, by the way. Like I just thought it was so unique and so different. All about this family who's on this road trip. Like they're gonna take a road trip for her to go to college, and then while they're on this road trip, there's this like fucking apocalypse with these robots, or like these alien robots that come and try to like destroy the world, and it's just so entertaining. Like it's such a cute, like wholesome family movie, and like the father-daughter relationship in this was just making me all kinds of emotional because it was so cute. And then we ended up watching The Lost Daughter, which this one's also on Netflix, and I was really excited for this one because it's directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, a freaking legend. And it also stars Olivia Colman as the lead, and I knew that this one was gonna get some Oscar buzz. I'm kind of surprised it didn't get more Oscar buzz because it was only nominated for like a few things. But this movie was really dark, really interesting, really well done. I feel like this is one of those movies where it kind of explores the idea of motherhood in a more like realistic and kind of like dark sense, where we're following someone who didn't really know if she wanted to be a mother. You know, this very much reminds me of the book The Push. It definitely has that kind of vibe where, you know, you're following this character who she just like doesn't really know if she wants children or if she should have had children. And I feel like this look at motherhood is so rare to see in films, especially. Like I feel like in books it's a little bit more common to see this kind of representation. I feel like so often in movies it's like mothers are just portrayed in a way where they're just like so grateful and so blessed and so like happy to have children, but I feel like sometimes like this is a more dark and serious look at how challenging it can be to be a mother, and I just loved it. I don't know, I thought this movie had so many great conversations, so many good moments, and such great acting in it. And then I ended up watching the movie Wild because I ended up watching this because of my Capricorn video that I did. I actually ended up reading the book Wild in that video, and then I watched the movie because of doing that video, and this movie was so good. I don't know why I didn't watch it sooner because I love Reese Witherspoon and I love this director, Jean-Marc Vallée. He actually recently just passed away, which is so unfortunate. Like I am a huge fan of most of his films. Like I mean, he's done Big Little Lies, Sharp Objects, he did Demolition with Jake Gyllenhaal, and he did Dallas Buyers Club. Like he's an incredible director, and this movie was just so fucking good. It was such a good book to movie adaptation. Like they absolutely nailed all the vibes in the book. They got some of the lines like perfectly down, and it just gave me the same feeling that like reading this book gave me. It makes me want to go and like get out in the world and like see the world and do things, and that's such a rare feeling for me, you know, as a homebody. That feeling doesn't happen very often, so I really appreciated this film. It just made me feel so inspired and so alive. And then the next movie that I ended up watching was Licorice Pizza. I actually ended up watching this on my birthday in theaters. Sadly, I didn't end up enjoying this one, and to be honest, like I do not understand for the life of me all the praise that this movie is getting, because this one is one of those, like, it's very like Oscar bait, you know, it's very much an Oscar bait kind of film where, you know, we're following these two characters in the 1970s. It's just kind of like a very nostalgic 70s vibes kind of movie. But I guess my main issue with this movie is the fact that the main romance that's happening in this movie is between a girl who's like 25 and a boy who's like, I'm pretty sure he's like 15. It's like one thing to have an age gap, you know, but it's another thing entirely to have an age gap where it's illegal. And it just felt so uncomfortable for me. Like this whole movie, I just felt very uncomfortable watching this. I mean, they are mostly, you know, they're mostly friends throughout this movie, but it's like you can tell like a romance is starting to happen between them, and it's just, I don't know, like I just didn't really like this. I didn't really like either of the main characters very much. I thought they were both just kind of obnoxious a little bit. Like I do love the girl, like the main actress. She's actually one of the singers from Haim, which is one of my favorite bands. So it was actually kind of cool to see her in a movie, but at the same time, like I thought she did a good job acting. I just wasn't a huge fan of the characters, I guess. I just found them to be kind of annoying. And then another unpopular opinion, I know you're just gonna want to cancel me after this one, but I saw West Side Story, which is directed by Steven Spielberg, and I really didn't like it. Ugh! And I think I disliked this one even more than Licorice Pizza. Like, this one just made me angry. And if you're wondering, like, no, I'm not really familiar with the original West Side Story, so I don't really know what I went into this one expecting, but it certainly wasn't that. And I don't know, I just wasn't a huge fan of this movie. I don't really like Ansel Elgort in this role. I just feel like he was miscast, or like, he just doesn't fit in this role, and I just feel like this is such an outdated storyline. Like, it's just not something that I am still interested in seeing in 2022. Like, I don't know. Like, I can appreciate, as a film lover, like, I can appreciate all of the amazing, you know, effort that went into filming some of these dance numbers, and, like, the way it's all one shot, and, like, yeah, it's beautifully done. This story was just so boring, so underwhelming, and by the end of it, I was, like, actually mad. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, it was so insta-love, and, like, ugh, I know that it's inspired or based off of Romeo and Juliet or whatever, but, like, I guess if that's your thing, then you might enjoy this one, but like, oh my god, I couldn't stand it. And then me and my sister ended up watching the movie Mass. We actually only ended up watching this because it was Chris Stuckman's like #1 favorite movie of 2021. And Chris Stuckman is a movie reviewer on YouTube who I absolutely trust, like 100%. He's one of my faves. And so we ended up watching this one, and this one was so intense. This movie, like this entire movie, all takes place within like one room, and it's just these two sets of parents having a conversation with each other about something that happened with their kids. This movie is really powerful. Like, it's definitely like a slow burning movie because it's so heavy on the dialogue. Like, it's literally all like this hour-and-a-half long movie or so takes place within these four walls, and you're just seeing these parents talk back and forth the whole movie, but the tension is so high the whole movie. And I can definitely see why this was Chris's like favorite movie of last year, because it's written so well, and it's definitely one of those like kind of thought-provoking movies that make you think about how people deal with certain things in their lives, you know, like how do you forgive your child that's done something that's completely unforgivable, and like what would it be like to be the parent of a child who's done something so horrific. I thought it was really well done, and the acting was so fucking good. Like, some of the best acting I've ever seen. Like, I felt like these people lived through that shit. Like, that was so good. And then we ended up watching Koda, which this one's on Apple TV, and this is one that we wanted to watch because it got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, so I'm so excited we finally watched this one. And this one was actually really good. If you didn't know, Koda actually stands for Children of Deaf Adults, and so we're following this main girl who's our main character. She's like the teenager, and her brother is deaf and both of her parents are deaf, so she grew up in a household where everyone's deaf. And the ironic thing is that she wants to be a singer, you know, like for her career, like that's her passion in life. And so it's kind of ironic because she doesn't even know really if she's a good singer because nobody in her family can hear her. And this is one of the most like heartwarming, beautiful, wholesome movies that I've seen in a really long time. Like, this movie was just so cute, but it also is very like eye-opening, you know, to like things that you might never think about, like how a life would be if everyone in your family like was deaf and they couldn't hear you. You know, it's just like a really interesting perspective. I will say this was a little like just a tad bit tropey. Like, if I had to like have a critique of this film, it would be that like, yeah, it's a little tropey, you know, because it's like her family like needs her and she wants to go and like live her dream, and like it's definitely that kind of trope happening here. But like, still, oh my god, this movie was so precious, and like the relationship that she had with her dad in this movie, like, oh my god, it made me genuinely cry by the end. Like, I was just like, they're so cute. The next movie that we ended up seeing was Drive My Car. We wanted to see this one because it got nominated for Best Picture as well, and so me, my mom, and my sister, we all went to the theater and we saw this one. And this one is this Japanese film. It's actually 3 hours long, which, like, holy shit. And in this movie, it's just kind of like a, not like a day in the life, but kind of almost like a slice of life story about this man who's dealing with the fact that his wife has recently died, and he is a, what is it called? It's like a screenwriter, but it's for plays. He writes plays. I know a lot of people are gonna say that this movie is really boring or that it's unnecessarily long, or like, I completely understand any critiques that people have with this movie, but I personally loved it so much. Like, I was so immersed in the lives of these characters, and I love the way that this movie was really subtle in the way that it took its time explaining different things and like telling the story. I feel like there was so much subtlety in this movie that like you really have to dissect it and kind of talk about it later, like what did this mean. Also, the car in this movie is just really cool. There were times in this movie where I kind of did feel the runtime, like it did feel like it was a little long, but I also didn't mind it very much. Like, I was just kind of engaged and immersed in the life of these people and what was happening. And then the next film that we watched was Marry Me. We actually watched this one on Valentine's Day just because we wanted something cute and romantic to watch, and this movie was like cute, you know, it was fine. It stars Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, and I kind of went into this thinking it was gonna be like super cheesy and that I wouldn't like it, but I'm glad that we watched it because it was just like a really cute time. The freaking bulldog in this movie, his name is Tank, so we were kind of like freaking out over that because that was like a really cool coincidence. I'm glad that this movie exists for a number of reasons, because one, I want to see more rom-coms like this getting made and like getting played in theaters. It's like the first rom-com that I've seen in theaters in so long, so like very happy about that. But also, I'm so happy this movie exists because Jennifer Lopez plays the lead in a romantic comedy movie, and like, we're talking, this woman's like in her 50s. Like, that is so rare to see a female lead protagonist that's in her 50s being the lead in a romantic comedy movie. Like, I think that's something that's so special and so freaking cool. And so I'm like very thankful thankful to this movie that it exists for those reasons. Like, it makes me very happy to see this. The next movie that I saw was the new Scream movie, Scream 5, if you will. And this is one that I actually went with one of my friends, Brittany. We went to the theater and we saw this one in theaters. I had such a good time watching this new Scream movie. I thought it was so much fun, and it's genuinely one of my favorite movies in the Scream franchise. Like, I think we can all agree that the first movie is the best, and like nothing's ever gonna beat the first Scream movie, but I feel like this one might actually be my second favorite in the whole series because I just had so much fun watching this. I loved kind of getting a new cast of characters, but there's also like a lot of inclusion of like the old cast of characters still within this. I thought it was so well done, the way it was like balancing having a new cast but also, you know, still including a lot of the old cast. And then the next movie that I watched was No Exit. I actually watched this one on my Patreon. If you didn't know, I have a Patreon, and once or twice a month we do watch movies together, like in a live stream on my Patreon, which is so much fun. So I watched No Exit with my Patreon members, and it was so much fun to watch this movie with like a huge group of people that had also mostly read the book. Is a movie based on one of my favorite books, No Exit by Taylor Adams. So I was very excited for this movie adaptation, even though it has been years since I read the book, so like it was a little fuzzy in my mind, but I feel like that's like the perfect time for me to see the movie because then I'm not like comparing it scene by scene to the book. But I know this movie's getting a lot of like criticism from everybody who really enjoyed this book, but I thought this movie was just so fun. Like, it's exactly what I was expecting it to be, you know? Like, I was pretty engaged throughout the entire thing. I was on the edge of my seat in certain moments. Like, I just thought it was really good. Like, I don't know, like some of the acting like wasn't my favorite, and like there were definitely some cheesy moments, and like, oh my god, I was not expecting it to get as like gory as it did at some parts. Like, we were on the live stream just being like, oh my god, like tell me when it's over. But like, I don't know, I just thought it was really entertaining, you know? I thought it was really well done. I know they did make a few changes from the book that some people are mad about, but I don't really mind it too much, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought it was perfectly fine as a movie. Like, it stands well on its own. And then we ended up watching The Power of the Dog. This is another one that I literally only watched this because it's nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. This is something that I definitely wouldn't have been interested in otherwise because I'm not a huge fan of Benedict Cumberbatch, and then it's also like a Western, which is something that I'm not really interested in. But surprisingly, I actually kind of ended up really enjoying this movie. I feel like this movie just kind of like gave me major Brokeback Mountain vibes in a way. And I don't know, I really loved the acting in this movie. Like, as much as I am not really a fan of Benedict Cumberbatch, I feel like he was perfectly cast for this role. Like, I feel like he was really good in this role, and I was just really invested in the different relationships that were going on in this movie. I think it has some of the best cinematography that I've seen this year. Like, I could definitely see why this movie is slaying at the Oscars. Like, it's definitely one of those like Oscar bait movies. He's good, and the score in this movie is so good. And then recently on Hulu, me and my sister just watched the new movie Fresh. It's like a horror movie that's about this girl. It's like, it's kind of like a commentary on how awful online dating is and how hard it is to find people who aren't like fucking insane. And so, you know, in this movie we're just following this girl who, you know, she meets Sebastian Stan in a grocery store, and then things kind of take off from there, but you know, it's not exactly what she thinks it's gonna be. Like, it's not exactly the rom-com that she was looking for. Like, it ends up turning into this crazy horror movie, and I don't want to like spoil what happens for you because you definitely don't find out for a little bit like what exactly is going on in this film. But this movie was very interesting. It was really unique. I feel like this is one of those movies where I can see why people are really loving it and I can see why people are really hating it. I kind of fall somewhere in the middle, if I'm being honest. Like, there were some things that I really loved about this movie. Like, I absolutely loved the first hour of this movie, and in the second part of the movie it just started to fall apart for me a little bit. I just kind of got frustrated with this main protagonist towards the end of this movie for like a number of different reasons, which kind of ruined some of my enjoyment for it. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like this is a really unique film. And then the last film that I want to talk about in this video, which was like one of my most recent watches, The Batman. Oh my god, I could do like an entire I could talk about this movie for hours, okay? But oh my god, I loved this movie so much because, oh my god, like, Robert Pattinson as Batman is like everything I've always wanted from Batman. His aesthetic, his voice, like the gothic kind of look to him is just everything. I love that he seems like he doesn't even have to try, you know, because I think something that, as much as I do love Christian Bale as Batman, like, he's probably my other favorite Batman ever, but I saw somebody say that they like Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne better, but they like Robert Pattinson's Batman better, and I think I would agree, just because I do love Robert Pattinson. Like, his voice, it sounds so natural, like he's not even really trying to do the Batman voice, but it sounds so good. And I almost kind of like the way he plays Bruce Wayne, kind of like he's, you know, this sad, almost like he seems kind of like a vampire or something, you know, every time he's out in public he's just very like moody and antisocial, and he doesn't really talk to anyone. Like, cause you know, we're kind of used to seeing Bruce Wayne as like this billionaire, you know, bachelor, whatever, and I actually really like this take on Bruce Wayne, that he's more, you know, experienced more trauma and he's kind of like antisocial and just kind of going through it. Like, I just really loved his take on Bruce Wayne, and this movie was just so good. Like, I could go on all day. Like, the fucking score in this movie, oh my god, like one of my favorite movie scores that I've ever listened to. I literally downloaded the whole soundtrack onto my phone after seeing this movie, and I've just been playing it all the time because like it's incredible. It's so good, and it's so like eerie and spooky and kind of like creepy at times, which I love. Okay, and Paul Dano as the Riddler, like, oh my god, absolutely iconic. Like, one of my favorite movie villains ever now. Like, he did so good in this role. Like, he was genuinely so fucking creepy. I love that this is more of like a detective kind of look at Batman. Like, I love that this doesn't really feel like a superhero movie to me. It definitely feels more of like a detective, you know, just trying to figure out what's going on. It was just so fucking good. Like, I know this movie is 3 hours long, and some people were complaining that the runtime felt a little long, but I did not even feel the runtime because I was so invested, and I was just like amazed at everything I was seeing on screen. I freaking loved Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Like, holy shit, what an absolute icon. And if we are talking about like what's your favorite Batman movie of all time, it's just so hard because, you know, The Dark Knight has always been one of my like top 10 favorite films of all time, and I do still think that The Dark Knight is like a superior film for me, like, overall, but that's mostly because of Heath Ledger's Joker, because Heath Ledger's Joker is one of my favorite characters that I've ever seen on screen. Like, he's absolutely phenomenal, and so I think that's the reason why The Dark Knight will always be a superior film for me. But if we're talking just Batman, like just Batman, I do think I prefer the Batman over The Dark Knight, which is fucking crazy. Like, never thought I would say that, but the Batman was just so good. Like, it feels more like how I want a Batman movie to feel. So yeah, anyways, I could literally talk about the Batman like all fucking day. Like, you gotta stop me, you know? But yeah, these are all of the movies and TV shows that I've been watching within these last, you know, 3 months or so. And yeah, sadly, this is going to be the final episode, the finale, if you will, of the What I've Watched series that I'm having on my channel. This is the final episode because we are going to be having a podcast. March 15th, it's happening. It'll be up. I'll have the links down below. The podcast is called Film Queens. It's me and my sister just talking and gushing over movies and TV shows, and it should be a really fun time. Like, I'm actually genuinely so excited to start this podcast because I've always wanted, you know, a place where I could really gush over movies and TV shows on a more regular basis, and we're going to be doing episodes once a week every Tuesday, and I'm just so excited. We also do have an Instagram if you wanted to, you know, follow the Instagram and check it out. That's where we'll be updating about like new, you know, movies and TV shows that we're seeing and kind of like talking about our latest episodes and things like that. So I'll have all of the info linked down below if you're curious. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know if you've seen any of these movies or TV shows recently, what you thought of them, like what are you feeling about them, or if you've seen any movies and TV shows recently that you've really enjoyed that I haven't even mentioned, then like let me know. What have you been watching lately? What have you been up to? And thank you so much again for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I sincerely hope that you go and check out me and my sister's podcast because I'm so excited about it. I think it's gonna be so much fun. And thank you all so much for watching. Of course, I super appreciate it, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye.